There will come a day when someone will try to make you feel small. Not because you are small, but because they are shrinking in their own spirit. The question is, when their words come like stones, will you carry them as wounds, or will you build a wall of strength? There are times in life when words come at you like daggers, thrown with precision, meant to pierce your dignity. In those moments, the natural instinct is to strike back, to defend, to show that you are not someone who will be walked over. But the truest power is not always found in answering back. It is not always found in raising your voice, nor in crafting the perfect comeback that cuts sharper than the insult you received. The deepest strength lies in restraint, in choosing stillness when the world expects you to break. Silence, in its purest form, is not the absence of words, but the presence of mastery. It is a declaration that you will not let someone else dictate the tempo of your soul. When a person belittles you, they are fishing for a reaction. They want to see the tremor of your composure, the flicker of anger in your eyes, the crack in your calm. They feed on disruption. They thrive on the chaos they can create inside you. But silence robs them of their harvest. Silence is the refusal to hand over your peace to someone who has not earned the right to disturb it. It is saying, I hear you, but you will not move me. That type of silence does not make you weak. It makes you unshakable. The world often mistakes silence for surrender, but it is not surrender when you choose not to answer every fool. It is not defeat when you decline to sit in the mud with someone who already lives there. In fact, there is a sacred kind of silence that is louder than thunder. It says more than words could ever capture. It tells your enemy, you do not have access to my energy, my time, or my spirit. That is not passivity. That is power clothed in patience. Think of a mountain. No matter how the wind screams, no matter how the storm rages, the mountain does not shout back. It does not bend to match the chaos around it. It stands unmoved, and in its silence, it proves its strength. That is how your silence must be when someone tries to belittle you. Let their insults whip around you like wind. Let their cruelty crash like waves. You remain like the mountain, present, unyielding, whole. There is wisdom in silence because it gives you space to choose your response rather than being enslaved to your reaction. When you stay quiet, you give yourself the gift of time. Time to breathe, to observe, to recognize what is really happening. Insults are usually not about you. They are confessions of the other person's insecurity, their frustration, their smallness. By staying silent, you allow that truth to rise to the surface. You expose them by refusing to wrestle in the dirt. Silence also disrupts the script. When someone belittles you, they expect you to snap back, to fight, to prove yourself. They are prepared for battle. But your silence confuses them. It denies them the satisfaction they came seeking. It leaves them unsettled, wondering why their words could not reach you. It is the quiet kind of victory, the kind that does not need applause because it is written in the composure you did not lose. Many people believe that if they do not speak, they are allowing themselves to be disrespected. But silence is not about pretending the insult did not happen. It is about refusing to waste your breath on someone who is not worthy of it. Every word you speak is a seed, and you must decide where to plant it. To waste your words on pettiness is to water weeds. To keep them for moments that matter is to cultivate a garden. Silence is the choice to protect your voice for the places it will make a difference. There is also a dignity in silence that commands respect. Imagine two people, one who responds to every insult with anger, and another who remains calm, collected, unmoved. Who holds more power? Who walks away with their dignity intact? The one who speaks from ego may think they won, but in reality, they lost control. The one who held silence revealed an inner strength that could not be shaken. People remember that kind of composure. They may not admit it, but they feel it. They know that kind of stillness comes only from someone who has learned that they are bigger than the moment. Silence is not for every situation. There are times when we must speak, times when injustice must be named, times when truth must be voiced. But when it comes to belittlement, when it comes to petty words spoken to shrink you, silence is often the most elegant answer. It is choosing not to wrestle with pigs because you both get dirty and the pig enjoys it. It is refusing to lower yourself to a level beneath your calling. But silence must be carried with confidence, not shame. It is not the silence of fear, but the silence of someone who knows their worth so deeply they do not need to defend it. That is the difference. Silence rooted in insecurity is weakness. Silence rooted in strength is power. When you stay quiet because you fear confrontation, you are running. When you stay quiet because you know you are untouchable, you are rising. There will be people who think your silence means they won. Let them believe it. Victory is not always about proving them wrong in the moment. Victory is about walking away with your peace unbroken, your energy untouched, your dignity whole. Let them boast about the battle you never even fought. Let them celebrate in the mud while you walk in the light. The truth is, silence is not about them at all. It is about you. It is about guarding the temple of your spirit and refusing to let anyone defile it with their cheap words. In the end, silence is a discipline. It takes more strength to hold your tongue than to lash out. It takes more control to remain calm than to explode. It is easy to meet fire with fire. It is divine to meet fire with stillness. And when you learn that discipline, you rise above the need to prove yourself to anyone. You realize that your worth is not up for debate, not up for defense, not up for dismantling by anyone else's opinion. So the next time someone tries to belittle you, stand tall in your silence. Let them talk. Let them exhaust themselves with words that carry no weight. You need not answer, because your presence, your dignity, your silence will always speak louder than anything you could say. There is a great mistake people often make when they are belittled. They rush to defend themselves, to justify their worth, to explain why they are not what the other person accused them of being. In doing so, they unknowingly hand over the keys to their dignity. They allow someone else to set the terms of the conversation. But your worth is not on trial. You do not need to plead your case as though you are in a courtroom and the world is the jury. The better path, the stronger path, is not to defend your wound, but to name their behavior. When someone chooses to speak down to you, they are making a choice to disrespect, a choice to diminish, a choice to strike where they think you are most vulnerable. In that moment, you are not required to unravel your history to prove your goodness. You are not required to beg for their recognition. Instead, you simply shine a light on what has been done. You say calmly and firmly, "That was disrespectful," or "Those words are not kind." You are not explaining yourself. You are identifying their act. And when you do this, you shift the power. You remove yourself from the posture of defense and place the weight of responsibility where it belongs, on the one who committed the harm. There is a quiet brilliance in this approach, because when you defend yourself, you become entangled in their narrative. You answer their insult with explanation, as if their words had authority over you. But when you name their behavior, you refuse to accept their frame. You stand in your truth without being dragged into their falsehood. You are not lowering yourself to prove who you are. You are simply raising a mirror to reflect who they have chosen to be in that moment. Think of it this way. If someone throws mud at you, you can either spend your time showing them how clean you were before they threw it, Or you can simply point and say, "You just threw mud." One requires you to step into their mess. The other allows you to stay clean, untouched, while showing the truth of their action. That is the difference between defending your wound and naming their behavior. There is also an elegance in this approach because it teaches you to separate your identity from their insult. The insult is not you, it is their action. The wound is not your worth, it is their attempt to diminish. When you say, "That was unnecessary" or "That was cruel," you keep the focus where it belongs. You are not saying, "I am not stupid" or "I am not worthless." You are saying, "You have chosen to be unkind." That is a powerful shift. It allows you to hold on to your dignity without dragging it through the mud of their words. Naming behavior is also an act of accountability. People who belittle others often thrive in environments where their cruelty goes unchallenged. They rely on silence, or they rely on the victim turning inward and doubting themselves. But when you calmly name their action, you disrupt that pattern. You do not shout, you do not curse, you do not lower yourself, you simply put a spotlight on the truth. And the truth, when spoken with clarity, has a way of stripping away their power. It also protects you from the endless spiral of self-defense. Imagine this: someone calls you incompetent. If you respond with a list of your achievements, they can always find another insult. If you explain yourself, they can twist your words. But if you simply say, "That was disrespectful," you cut the chain before it begins. You refuse to be drawn into the endless game of proving yourself to someone who never intended to see your value in the first place. There is also a healing that comes with this practice, because every time you defend your wound, you reopen it. You relive the sting, you reinforce the idea that you must prove your worthiness. But when you name their behavior, you protect your spirit. You say, in essence, "I am whole. I am not broken by this moment. I will not carry your cruelty inside me." And in doing so, you begin to train your mind and heart to rise above belittlement instead of being consumed by it. It takes courage to do this because it requires composure. It is far easier to shout back or to crumble into silence. But strength is found in the middle path, firm, steady, unshaken. You do not pretend the insult didn't happen, but you also do not give it power over you. You acknowledge it for what it is, their behavior, not your truth. And sometimes the simple act of naming it aloud is enough to change the entire energy of the room. Those who belittle often expect either silence or outrage. They rarely expect calm clarity. When you meet them with neither submission nor fury, but with steady acknowledgement, you disarm them. You remind them, without needing to say it directly, that you are not someone to be toyed with. Your worth is not fragile, and your spirit is not for sale. Let this be your practice. The next time someone seeks to push you down with their words, resist the urge to defend your wound. Resist the trap of their narrative. Do not waste your energy proving who you are to those committed to misunderstanding you. Instead, stand tall and name their behavior. Say, "That was unfair." Say, "That was unnecessary." Say, "That was cruel," simple, clear, strong. And then walk away with your dignity intact. Because in the end, your power is not in convincing them of your worth. Your power is in refusing to let their words define you. Your power is in standing firmly in who you are while naming exactly what they have chosen to be. And when you learn to do this, you will find that insults lose their grip, cruelty loses its sting, and you walk taller, freer, stronger than before. When someone belittles you, it can feel like their words are carved into your skin. The sting lingers. You replay the moment over and over again, trying to make sense of why they said what they said, why they chose to cut you down, and in that spiral, you begin to question yourself. Maybe they were right. Maybe I am not good enough. Maybe I am lacking something. That is the danger of insult. It plants seeds of doubt in your own soil. But here's the truth you must never forget. Their words are not really about you. They are about them. A person who is whole in themselves has no need to shrink another. A person who carries peace in their soul does not scatter poison with their tongue. Belittlement is not the language of confidence. It is the cry of insecurity. It is not the roar of strength. It is the whisper of weakness disguised as volume. When someone tries to make you feel small, what they are really revealing is the smallness they carry within themselves. Their insult is a mirror turned outward, showing you what they cannot face within. Think of it like this. When a cup is shaken, whatever is inside spills out. If there is water, water will flow. If there is poison, poison will pour. Insults are simply the overflow of a poisoned spirit. When someone lashes at you with cruel words, it is not you who created that venom. It was already in them, waiting for the chance to spill. And when you learn to see it this way, you stop carrying their venom as though it belongs to you. You recognize it as theirs, and you refuse to drink from it. This truth becomes even clearer when you look at the patterns of human behavior. People who belittle others rarely stop with just one person. If you step back and observe, you will notice they do it to many. It is their habit, their survival mechanism, their shield. They cut others down, not because those others deserve it, but because they cannot stand tall without standing on someone else's shoulders. They are not pointing out your flaws. They are revealing their dependence on cruelty to feel strong. When you understand this, you begin to walk differently in the face of insult. Instead of absorbing it, you let it pass by you. Instead of saying, maybe I am what they say I am, you whisper to yourself, this is not my truth, this is their wound. And that single shift in perspective can save you from carrying scars that were never meant for you. It takes wisdom to see past the words to the wound that created them. It takes strength to refuse to let their judgment become your identity. But that wisdom and strength are what protect your spirit. Every insult is an invitation to internalize poison. And every time you remind yourself, this is about them, not me, you are setting down the cup they tried to hand you. You are choosing freedom over bondage. Consider this. How many times have you seen someone lash out? Not because of you, but because of what they were carrying inside. A bad day at work, a troubled relationship, a deep insecurity that whispers to them in the night. Their insult was never really about you. It was an eruption of their own storm. You just happened to be standing nearby. When you recognize this, you stop taking things personally. You stop carrying weights that were never yours to carry. This does not mean you excuse cruelty. This does not mean you allow people to trample over you, but it does mean you no longer let their words pierce your soul. You see them for what they are, reflections, not definitions. You do not allow someone else's brokenness to become your identity. You look at their insult and say, that is yours, I will not own it. There is a kind of freedom that comes with this mindset, because once you stop taking every insult as truth, you stop bending under the weight of other people's opinions. You stand taller, lighter, freer. You realize that the only words that truly define you are the ones you choose to accept. Their bitterness cannot write your story unless you hand them the pen. Their poison cannot fill your veins unless you drink it willingly. Remember this too. The louder someone tries to belittle you, the more they are revealing about themselves. The man who calls others weak often fears his own fragility. The woman who mocks others' beauty often wrestles with her own reflection. The colleague who questions your intelligence is often haunted by their own inadequacy. Insult is projection. Cruelty is confession. Once you see this clearly, their words lose their teeth. You recognize them not as daggers, but as cries for help disguised as attacks. And here is the greatest strength you can develop: the ability to stand in the storm of insult without letting it alter the way you see yourself. To hear their words, understand where they come from, and then let them pass. To say, I will not hold this. This does not belong to me. That is not denial. That is discernment. That is the maturity of someone who knows who they are and refuses to let others rewrite it. Because the truth is, no one can make you small unless you agree to shrink. No one can make you worthless unless you hand them your worth. And no one's words, no matter how sharp, can define you unless you let them. The power is not in what they said, it is in what you choose to believe. So when you are belittled, step back and remember, this is not a revelation of your value. This is a revelation of their pain. This is not an unveiling of your weakness. This is an unveiling of their struggle. Their words are not a mirror of who you are. They are a mirror of who they are. And when you learn to see it this way, you walk through the world untouchable, carrying your worth like a crown that no insult can tarnish. When someone belittles you, what they are really doing is handing you a cup. Inside that cup is their bitterness, their resentment, their insecurities, their anger. They extend it toward you with their words, their tone, their smirk, and they hope you will drink deeply. They hope you will swallow their poison and let it seep into your spirit. And many people do just that. They drink the poison of insult, and it begins to spread. It clouds their thoughts. It weighs down their heart. It changes the way they see themselves. They wake up replaying the words. They carry the insult like a stone in their pocket, pulling it out in quiet moments, running their fingers over it until it carves grooves of doubt into their soul. But here is the truth you must learn if you want to remain whole. You are never required to drink from the cup. Insults only live inside you if you invite them in. Cruelty only roots itself in your spirit if you give it soil. The words may sting when they are spoken, but their power fades the moment you decide not to carry them. Think of it like a seed. If someone throws a seed of poison into your garden, it cannot grow unless you water it, unless you nurture it with your attention. If you leave it where it fell, it dies on the surface, never taking root. That is how you must treat belittlement. Do not water it with your replaying. Do not feed it with your overthinking. Do not give it sunlight by speaking it over yourself again and again. Let it lie where it fell and walk away with your spirit untarnished. There is a discipline required in this, because the natural impulse is to pick up the poison and turn it over in your hands, to analyze it, to wonder why they gave it to you, to taste it just to see if maybe it was true. But every time you do, you weaken yourself. Every time you entertain their insult, you let their shadow creep into your light. To not internalize poison is an act of self-protection, of sacred self-respect. It is you saying, I will not give my soul over to your brokenness. It is important to understand that people will always hand out poison. That is the nature of humanity. Some will speak out of jealousy, some out of fear, some out of insecurity so deep it leaks into every word they say. You cannot control the cups they hand out, but you can always control whether you drink. And this is where your freedom lies. You are free the moment you decide that no insult, no belittlement, no cruelty will ever find a home in you. Think of the strongest trees. They stand for decades, even centuries, weathering storms, facing winds that would bend a weaker trunk. But what allows them to endure? It is not that storms never come, it is that the storms never enter them. The rain may soak their bark, but their core remains strong. The wind may howl, but it does not hollow them out. That is how you must be when insult comes. Let it pass over your surface, but never let it pierce your core. You are allowed to feel the sting, but you are not required to let it shape your truth. Many of us were conditioned from a young age to hold on to words. We were told, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." And yet we know the opposite feels true. Words can cut, words can scar, words can linger for years, but only if we allow them to. Only if we let them sit at the table of our minds long after they were spoken. The most powerful act you can perform when belittled is to let the words pass without residence, to acknowledge them and then release them, to say, "I see what you tried to give me, but I will not carry it." Do not confuse this with denial. It is not pretending the insult did not happen. It is not burying the pain and calling it strength. It is a conscious choice to release what does not belong to you. When you refuse to internalize poison, you are not ignoring reality. You are choosing which reality to hold on to. You are saying, "I will hold on to my worth, not your words. I will hold on to my dignity, not your disrespect. I will hold on to my truth, not your attempt to distort it." There is also great wisdom in recognizing that poison changes its container. If you drink bitterness, you will become bitter. If you drink cruelty, you will become harsh. If you drink insecurity, you will begin to live small. This is why you cannot afford to internalize the poison handed to you, because it will not just wound you, it will shape you. It will change the way you move through the world. Protect yourself from becoming like those who tried to belittle you by refusing to accept what they offer. Let them keep their poison. It belongs to them, not you. This practice requires vigilance. It means catching yourself in the quiet moments when you hear their words echoing in your mind and saying, "No, that is not mine." It means noticing when you begin to bend under the weight of someone else's insult and choosing to straighten your spine. It means reminding yourself again and again, "I am not what they called me. I am not what they implied. I am more. I am whole. I am untouchable by their bitterness." Freedom from poison is not a one-time choice. It is a daily discipline. But every time you refuse to swallow the bitterness, you grow stronger. Every time you decline the cup, you stand taller. Every time you let the insult die on the surface, instead of planting it in your soul, you prove to yourself that your worth is unshakable. So when belittlement comes, and it will, remember this: the cup will always be offered. The poison will always be poured, but you are not obligated to drink. You are not required to carry what was never yours. Protect your spirit like a sacred garden. Let no weeds take root. Let no poison find soil. And walk through this world with the kind of strength that refuses to be defined by anyone else's bitterness. When someone belittles you, the sting is sharp, but hidden within that sting is an opportunity. It is the chance to decide how you will allow others to treat you moving forward. Every insult, every dismissive comment, every cutting remark is a test, not of your worth, but of your boundaries. Because your worth is already whole, already unshakable. The real question is, will you protect it? Will you honor yourself enough to set a line in the sand that no one can cross without consequence? Boundaries are not walls built from fear. They are gates of dignity, drawn not to keep the world out, but to keep your spirit sacred. They are declarations that say, "This is who I am, this is what I allow, and this is what I will never tolerate." Too often, people confuse kindness with passivity, thinking that to be good is to absorb every insult, to endure every cruelty, to stay silent in the face of disrespect. But kindness without boundaries is not kindness at all. It is self-abandonment. And when you abandon yourself, you teach others to abandon you too. When someone belittles you, it is a signal. It is a flare in the sky that tells you, here is a place where your boundary must be drawn firmer, clearer, stronger. If you allow their words to pass without acknowledgement, If you brush it off again and again, you are teaching them that your dignity can be trespassed. But when you decide no more and you enforce it not with rage but with clarity, you reclaim your power. You teach them and yourself that your spirit is not open land, it is protected territory. The beauty of using these moments to strengthen your boundaries is that every insult becomes a teacher. Instead of only seeing pain, you begin to see lessons. If someone mocks your dreams, perhaps it is time to declare that you will not share your sacred visions with those who cannot honor them. If someone disrespects you in public, perhaps it is time to set the standard that conversations with you must be rooted in respect, or they will not happen at all. If someone in your circle constantly diminishes you with little jokes, perhaps it is time to say, "That is not funny, and I will not allow it anymore." Each act of belittlement becomes a chance for you to reinforce the foundation of your self-respect. But boundaries are not only about what you say, they are also about what you walk away from. Sometimes the strongest boundary is silence followed by distance. You do not always owe an explanation. You do not always owe confrontation. Sometimes the boundary is simply removing your presence from the places where your dignity is not valued. And when you do this, you are not being cruel, you are being faithful to your own worth. Boundaries also protect your energy. Words of belittlement are designed to drain you, to pull you into endless arguments, to trap you in the cycle of proving yourself. But when you have strong boundaries, you refuse to waste your energy on people and situations that diminish you. You redirect that energy into your growth, your peace, your purpose. You no longer scatter your strength defending yourself against the smallness of others. You save it for building the greatness within you. There is also a deeper truth. Boundaries teach others how to treat you. Human beings are always learning from each other, consciously or unconsciously. When you allow disrespect, you are signaling that it is permissible. When you stand against it, you are signaling that it will not be tolerated. And once people see that your boundaries are non-negotiable, they adjust. They either rise to meet the standard or they remove themselves from your presence. Either way, you win, because your peace remains intact. It is not always easy to enforce boundaries. Sometimes it feels uncomfortable. Sometimes you fear being called harsh or cold or unkind. But remember this, you are not responsible for how people react to your boundaries. You are only responsible for honoring yourself. If someone calls you harsh for refusing to be disrespected, that is their discomfort with losing access to your silence, not a reflection of your character. If someone calls you unkind because you refuse to laugh at their demeaning jokes, that is their discomfort with being held accountable. Let them feel it. Their discomfort is the cost of your dignity, and that is a price worth paying. There is a quiet strength in those who live with firm boundaries. They do not need to shout their worth from the rooftops. They do not need to prove themselves in every room. Their very presence communicates, I know who I am, I know what I deserve, and I will not remain where my value is disregarded. This strength is magnetic. It attracts people who honor you and repels those who would diminish you. The next time someone belittles you, do not only see the insult, see the invitation. Ask yourself, what boundary needs strengthening here? Where have I allowed too much leniency? Where have I excused behavior that chips away at my dignity? And then draw the line, make it clear, hold it steady, and refuse to move it no matter the pressure. Because the truth is, you are not here to be a doormat for the insecurities of others. You are not here to shrink so that others feel tall. You are not here to accept poison disguised as humor or criticism disguised as care. You are here to walk in the fullness of your worth, and that worth demands boundaries. Use every belittlement not as a reason to collapse, but as a reason to rise stronger in the protection of your spirit. And with each boundary you build, you grow freer, freer from the weight of disrespect, freer from the cycles of insult, freer from the chains of needing approval from those who cannot honor you. Boundaries are not barriers that keep you trapped. They are doors that lead you into peace, self-respect, and the life you deserve. When someone belittles you, it is tempting to carry the wound like a stone in your chest. You replay their words in your mind, you feel the sting all over again, and soon their voice begins to echo louder than your own. But forgiveness is the release of that weight. Forgiveness is not saying what they did was right. It is saying you refuse to let their actions live rent-free in your spirit. It is not excusing, it is not forgetting, it is choosing peace over poison. To forgive is to cut the thread that ties you to the moment of insult. Without forgiveness, you stay bound to that instant, replaying it, reliving it, reshaping your worth around someone else's cruelty. Forgiveness severs the tie. It says, I will not give you the power to keep me chained to that moment. I free myself from your shadow. And in doing so, you reclaim the authority over your own heart. But here is where wisdom must walk hand in hand with compassion. Forgiving is not the same as erasing. You do not have to forget the lesson simply because you laid down the bitterness. If a flame burned you once, you do not carry anger against the flame, but you also do not thrust your hand back into the fire. You remember, you learn, you keep the scar as a reminder of what not to touch again. The same is true with people. You can forgive them for their words, their actions, their attempts to diminish you, but you must also remember who showed you they cannot be trusted with your softness. There is strength in this balance. Too often, people believe forgiveness means a return to the old dynamic, as though you must invite the person back into the same place in your life, no questions asked. But forgiveness